everybody, my name is Andre Walton. I am the Southeast Regional Organizer for All Wisconsin Revolution, and today we have a special guest. Her name is Ashley Hudson. And hey, how are you doing today, Ashley?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Andre?
I'm doing good. So I know you work with Our Wisconsin Revolution as well. You want to tell us a little about your title and what you do with Our Wisconsin Revolution?
Yeah. So I'm the Southwest Regional Organizer for our Wisconsin Revolution. I'm just trying to remember when I started. I think it was back in February. I think we all started around the same time. So what we do essentially, well, we're trying to kind of refigure that out, right? Because a lot of things kind of got turned on their head. So, yeah. So are you asking what I do specifically, or?
Yeah. So what exactly is your core focus right now?
So right this second,
Mhm.
I'm pretty focused on the strikes that are happening, that other groups are kind of organizing around as well, other organizations, other kind of pop-up groups, and then just, regular people, because I mean, like, electorally speaking, like, we can talk about that in a minute, but right
Mhm.
now I see the most important thing is getting, I feel like, I guess I feel like it's like triage, you know? So I feel like this is the most important thing right now because for rent strikes and general strikes. So for instance, people are like they're either losing their homes or they're going to, or they already did because people can't pay their rent right now if they can't go to work because of this pandemic because
Yeah.
everything is shut down. So I think it's people that are most affected by it, marginalized
Mhm.
populations
Right.
and um, people that are in poor people. And I say poor people as one of the poor people.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I have a house,
Right.
I have a home, but um,
Well, I know you're doing some work on on some rent stripes. I'm going to ask you some questions about that. Before we go into the details about that, what really got you involved in politics? Like, where did you get your kind of your feet wet?
well, honestly, probably Bernie. If I'm, I like, I was kind of justice oriented before that, but I don't think I really got it or really had a way to channel that part about me until Bernie came along and and talked about not only the things that I had dealt with personally, like, and not just me, but a lot of people, as poor and working class groups. Like, he just basically spoke to the working class, and and that was the first time I'd ever heard an elected official say anything like what he was saying, and it was really inspiring, especially because he was planning to run for the highest office in the nation. So that was a huge deal for me. And every time he would say something, I was just like, wow, I can't believe how much I'm agreeing with a politician. As somebody who was pretty cynical before that and relatively untrusting of elected officials on either side. And not only was he saying those things, but also he empowered us. Like, he gave us hope where it didn't really exist before. I could say I really didn't pay attention as much as I should have before, because I guess I didn't feel like there was any point. Didn't feel like there was a lot of hope, to be honest. You just kind of, feel trapped in this, paycheck to paycheck lifestyle and hoping that you make it, you know. But Bernie made it seem like there was hope, and he just he brought all of us together. I've met so many people since then, so many people that I just are just as committed to this fight, just as have struggled a lot too. And yeah, I don't know. This is I guess it's where I'm at right now. I don't know if that answered your question very well.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, it kind of makes me wonder a little bit more about that. So, were you traditionally an independent before you got involved with the Bernie campaign, or were you more of a Democrat? Where were you leaning politically before you really seen this politician who inspired you to get involved?
Well, I was registered as a Democrat, and I guess on the surface, I considered myself a Democrat because I guess I didn't really know better, honestly, at the time. I didn't really understand fully besides like a very shallow kind of superficial understanding of the party. You know, what I saw at the time was, oh, Democrats fight for the working people and they stand up for people, and Republicans throw them under the bus. That was my very simplistic view of them. So I considered myself to be a Democrat, even though I think in reality, I think I've always sort of been an independent, even if I didn't consider myself that, because I just can't fully like get behind every single thing either party says. I mean, we shouldn't be put in these boxes anyway, right? I'm registered as a Democrat right now because it's just easier to vote that way and get involved in primaries and stuff like that. But admittedly, no, I wouldn't consider myself a Democrat. I'm definitely an independent, but let me clear it up, because there's a lot of narratives that are surrounding the word independent. A lot of people who I would probably consider to be operatives of some kind or just have an agenda have intentionally sort of surrounded the idea of being independent as being right-wing, and that's not at all the case. I mean, I'm sure there are right-wing independent people, but I'm definitely a leftist. And I say the word leftist because I don't say Democrat, I don't say liberal, and I'm not even really saying progressive anymore, to be honest, because these words have just been co-opted so much. I mean, Nancy Pelosi considers herself a progressive, so if she's a progressive, then I'm something much to the left of that. So I just consider myself a leftist or a revolutionary. I'm not quite sure what what we're calling ourselves now, but the language seems to change a lot. So
yeah, one of the things that's always funny to me is, as I think when it comes to politics, we tend to attach ourselves to the labels, and everybody labels themselves one thing or another. But when you actually ask them what they stand for, you know, it may not line up at all with what they attach the label to. Like, for example, myself, you know, you can call me a social democrat, a democratic socialist, but what really matters is policy at the end of the day. So I'm kind of thinking that's what really makes people who are independents, and people like you, independents, is policy based rather than, because they don't really assign to a label, and they don't really care about labels. And that's why you have over half the country considering themselves independent. So, I mean, I definitely get, you know,
right.
You know, why you have a hard time defining it. I think most people do. So you're like most people. But kind of moving on from the labels a little bit, I mean, I find that really interesting because you're an independent. I really would like to get a perspective on that. So as an independent, Bernie Sanders did bring a lot of independent voters out in the primary election. As far as the primary goes, do you think as an independent voter, Joe Biden himself, not necessarily Joe Biden himself, but do you think the Democratic platform as it stands right now, can it inspire independents to really get out there and vote? Because we've seen this in 2016, and that's one of the things that was a real division of about inspiration. What do you think has to be done from the Democratic side to inspire independents like yourself and independents overall to get out and vote? Okay.
Yeah. So, Joe Biden can't even inspire most of his own base really to get out. And by his base, I mean people who tend to vote Democrat, even if they don't necessarily fall in line with the party all the time. So no, Joe Biden definitely cannot inspire independents to come out, because the thing about independence is, you know, we exist because we just, you know, we don't really we don't really, you know, see ourselves as in these boxes, like these party boxes, which, you know, force you to subscribe to a very narrow set of values and beliefs. And if you don't, then you're out of the club, even if you're technically still registered. So no, I don't think Joe Biden can inspire independence. I think the key thing here is not that Joe Biden can inspire independence or really anybody else for that matter. But I think that he can do a good job of scaring them. And what I mean by that is, like, Democrats are just as guilty of fear mongering as the Republicans. And by that, I mean, just think about the fact that, Democrats don't actually stand for things, or if they do, I don't know what they stand for, because, like, they haven't exactly made it clear. And I feel like they don't fight for things. We don't put for, all we do is we fight against things, and we stand against things. And in this case, it's Trump, because Trump is the boogeyman. And, look, I want Trump gone just as much as the next person, right? But, like, yeah, I mean, you're not going to inspire people if you don't stand for anything, if you constantly just stand against things. And I think that if people vote for Joe Biden en masse, first of all, I'd be shocked. I'd be incredibly shocked. But if that happens, it's because of fear, not because of hope. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point that that you hit on, voting out of fear. That's one of the things that people have been voting out of for a long time. They vote out of fear of what the other person is going to do. But when are we really going to get that chance again to really vote for something that we are inspired to vote about? But moving on from that, that was a very good answer. So I know you're doing a whole bunch of work right now with our Wisconsin Revolution, and we kind of talked about the rent strike a little bit. And did you want to talk about that a little bit more, about what the rent strike is for? Who are you guys working with, and how are you getting it off the ground?
Yeah, so I've been working kind of alongside the organization Socialist Alternative, which they're given props. They've kind of led this whole thing, and they've put a lot of work into it. So I don't want to take any credit for their work, because they have done a lot. Today they held, I think, their first statewide call for Wisconsin for the rent strike. It was just got done a little bit ago, so I actually I don't have any updates as to how that went yet, because I unfortunately had to be on another call. But yeah, essentially, the idea is, to get people, to help people in apartment buildings and collectives and places like that, essentially to organize together to sort of just collectively say, we're not paying rent. And before anyone has any thoughts about this, because I just know what people are gonna think and what's gonna come out of this. This is not any sort of entitlement thing. This is not any sort of this laziness or welfare type thing that people like to throw around. This is literally, these are literally unprecedented times, and this is literally a pandemic, and unprecedented times in already very, very, very difficult times for the working class and poor. The only difference now is these problems have become more visible to the middle and upper classes, because they're being forced to see it. So it seems like the rent strike, it seems like we're asking for just the world, and we're just not wanting to, but that's not it at all. I mean, people could barely pay their rent before when they had full-time jobs, and now they don't. Yeah. So this is a big problem. Whether you believe in it or not, something has to happen, because there's going to be a lot of homeless people if we don't solve this problem. And just to be clear, putting a moratorium on evictions is not even close to enough. It's a start, but I'm not going to give anyone a whole lot of credit for that, when all it does is delay the fate of the poor and working class. So
yeah, I definitely feel the sentiment on there, because I read an article not too long ago that said credit card debt or banks can actually literally take the stimulus money from people. So, how does that help the poor and working class if their stimulus money is getting taken from them, if they're going to use that for bills? And that makes a rent strike even more important, considering people may not even be getting the stimulus money to pay their bills or their rent. So how are they going to pay or get anything done if they're getting their money taken away from them? So I think that work is very important going forward, especially for neighborhoods that are really struggling and hurting right now. And even for homeowners, if they're hurting right now, they might not even be able to pay mortgage. So this might even be helpful for homeowners. So I think this is really good, and I think people should get involved. Where can people find out how to get involved with the rent strike or find it online?
Yeah, there's a couple of groups that have been created locally. There's a Milwaukee group and a Madison group on Facebook where people can kind of come in and just collectively organize around that. That's where a lot of the updates are going to be. And so, yeah, like I said, if you want to put those links in there later,
Yeah, I can put the links
that
in
would
the
be a
description.
good place to go. Yeah, that's just one big thing. Like I said, I've always kind of been, like I said, there's a lot of things that I think we're trying to do with OWR, but like I said, I have kind of a triage approach to things.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a critical thing right now, because, and we just have to deal with it. I mean, right now, we don't really have a choice, so.
Yeah, it's an important work. You got to give voice to the voiceless. I'm glad to get a chance to talk with you about, what you're doing with Our Wisconsin Revolution, the primary, and how you got started. Real quick question: where can people find you as far as like emails and contacting if they want to get involved, if they get some type of inspiration from this video?
Yeah. So you could just email me. It's very easy to remember. It's just Ashley, ASHLEY, at OurWisconsinRev.com. So yeah, feel free to email me. You can also send messages, Facebook messages to the Our Wisconsin Revolution Facebook page, also the Twitter page, because we all kind of collectively monitor that. So I'll get messages there as well, or at least somebody will get the message to me if nothing else. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to make sure I put your email and the Twitter and our social medias all in the link in the descriptions. And is there anything else you want to say before you log off?
Probably nothing helpful, but I mean, but that's only because I'm still reeling from everything that's happened. So no need to go down that rabbit hole, but the fight continues regardless. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate you letting me interview you today. There was some great answers, and I hope somebody gets inspired from the words in your journey.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
So we always say in the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.